Hello and welcome to another edition of Women's Health and Vitality Unleashed. I'm your host, Coach Dr. Ann. I'm a double board certified physician, health coach, syndicated columnist, and author, and a few other things. But I'm your host, and I thank you for taking the time to attend another session. So today I'm honored to have Miss Hannah Corbett, and she's going to talk to you about something that's often neglected, but it's extremely important. So, welcome to the show, Hannah.
Hi, I'm so excited to be here. Thank you for having me.
I'm happy to have you here. So, let's get started with a little bit about yourself.
Sure. Yes. My name is Hannah Corbett, and I've spent the last about a decade now in healthcare doing a lot of program management, health literacy, health operations. I have a master's degree from NYU in health policy and really just learning about how people interact with the health system in different ways. So that's kind of my background. And a couple of years ago, I was experiencing burnout and I was laid off, and I ended up deciding to start my own business. And my own business ended up being in the form of a well being focused social club, which I'm building because I think we have too much social disconnection and a lot of adult loneliness. And I think we really need to change that. So that is me.
Knowing a little bit about what you're doing, I'm excited to get to that a little bit further down. But tell us your story as far as the significance of loneliness from your standpoint.
Yes. I think loneliness is very significant. And I think it's something we don't really like to talk about. I think we all love to pretend that we are not lonely and we're fine. We are totally fine. We have friends. It's great. And I think that's a little bit of just vulnerability. We get a little nervous when we start talking about loneliness. But it is hugely significant. And I think that one of the things we really need to think about as humans is the impact that the people around us have on our bodies and our health and our well-being, just the ideas, the excitement. So I think that fostering genuine connection and making those social pieces is really important. And the physical problems that are related to not having that, the issues that arise are not good in your body. Science says that it's about the equivalent of smoking 16 cigarettes a day, which we would never, I would never
No, absolutely not.
do, because that sounds like a terribly unhealthy choice to make. And so I think a lot of us are like, oh, well, it's not that bad if I just stay home and sit on my couch. And they're like. But the reality is, in your body, it is not good. It is that bad. So we need to make sure that we are building these social structures in a way that's really helpful for ourselves and for our health.
And that's really important for people to understand. It goes way beyond, okay, I just want to be alone. There are some significant physiologic processes going on in your body when there is this ongoing loneliness. I remember way back when, I think in medical school, they told us if you're married, you live longer than if you're not married. If you're not married and you have a dog, you live longer than if you have nothing. And I found it very interesting, but fast forward a few decades, there's plenty of research showing a connection between happiness and longevity. And I believe one study was done, I think it was a Harvard study done back maybe in the 60s or 70s. And they took men who went to Harvard and they compared them to inner city Boston men. And they found the one thing that really drove them both was the social connectedness. And there is a significant relationship with social connections and longevity. So tell us more about the science as far as why we should not just be happy on our phones and so forth, and why we really need to make an effort to develop and nurture social connections.
Yes, I think this is a major point, and I love the study that you pointed out. That is, I believe, Harvard's longest running study on longevity, and I believe it's still running to this day.
Really?
They've done one of the longest studies on just looking at people over time, and it's something that they've continued. And social connection is the through line. It is the thread that really shows what is going to make you happiest. It's the longest running study on happiness,
Hmm.
and it is human connection, which intuitively kind of makes sense. Like, why are we here on Earth? Like, it's really not to play with little button boxes. My grandmother used to call them. It's to connect. It's to be here with other people. It's to be in this. So when you look at the science, studies consistently show, including that Harvard study, that loneliness contributes to chronic disease across the board. It also underscores that this is a huge issue that we kind of really need to pay attention to. Over 4 decades of research has produced robust evidence that lacking social connection, in particular in truly being in social isolation, is associated with increased risk for death from all causes. And that information was coming out of a report done by the Surgeon General during the loneliness epidemic announcement that they did. They did this huge report and they really dug into the science behind it and kind of what was happening and how it was, we were causing massive increases in anxiety and depression and a lot of mental health illnesses, but also in the physical chronic disease illness rates are all up as well. So it's something that we really need to be paying attention to. And it's something that a lot of people just assume that it's like fine. Like they're not thinking that it's like a major thing. A lot of people understand, yes, you need to eat healthy and you need to work out, but to make sure that you're working your social muscles as well is often very overlooked and something that we need to really consider.
That's where I was going next. I was just thinking about all the people who go to the gym regularly and they eat, all the right foods. They make sure they get their 8 hours of sleep and so forth. They don't drink much, if at all. They don't smoke, but they're oblivious to the fact that their isolation really is increasing the risk of dying prematurely. And I think, I know more people need to fully appreciate that and understand that because they are operating like in a bubble, not realizing that this choice, yes, exercising, weight loss, all those things will help me live longer. But, they're balancing it out by spending all the time on the cell phone and not getting out meeting people. And this is not just, oh, it makes me happy, it makes me sad. I mean, there is a strong physiologic basis. There's even a happiness hormone that impacts this. And so, since we now know that your life expectancy is actually tied to connectedness, we really, many of us need to do more to nurture very important relationships because, when it's all said and done, the cell phone's not going to be there for you when you need it. People will be.
Yes, exactly. And if you look at the stats from 2003 to 2020, I believe is in the loneliness report by the Surgeon General, and we have decreased the amount of time we spend engaging with our friends by 20 hours a month in 20 years. 20 hours a month. That's crazy. Like, that's a lot of time.
Work week.
Right. That's a lot of time that we were spending with friends that we're no longer spending with friends. So what are we doing with that time? And unfortunately, I think you kind of alluded to the answer. We are scrolling and we are home and, maybe we're Netflixing. Not that I have anything against it, but we have to be really mindful of how we're spending our time and what we're doing with ourselves and what we're doing with others. It's interesting. There's the measures of how much time you're spending with people that live in your household, but then there's also like additional measures of how much time you're spending with people outside of your household. And while it's great to spend time with the people that you live with, and I hope that everyone is, it's also really important to have people outside of that household that can kind of give you broader perspectives and kind of be there for you in different capacity. And honestly, most of the time, given the house, depending on like what kind of household, the people that you might be meeting with might be a very different demographic than the people that you live with, right? Like if you live with your husband, you probably are going to hang out with your girlfriends that have very different perspectives than your husband has on the topic. So it's really kind of building in many kinds of social connections.
Absolutely. And something else as you were talking, there's another level on top of that. So if you're spending a lot of time doing binges of movies and sitting scrolling through your phone, then you're going to the next level. Sitting for a long time is the new smoking. So even if you get out and you exercise, you do all the right things and you sit for a long time, your life expectancy goes down. So you have a double whammy. You're spending all of this time on the phone, on the TV, watching TV, and so forth, disconnected. So you have that. And then you're seated for a long time. So then you have the decreased life expectancy with that. And so when you put those things together, I mean, you're really doing a tremendous disservice by not getting out socializing, meeting people, and so forth. And that translates into potential years of life lost. And that's very serious. So, what hope do you have?
Definitely. I have a lot of hope. I think that we are really changing a lot of perspectives on technology. Everyone loves technology or hates technology, and either way, you're going to hear a lot about it. Um, and technology is not going away. And that's good and bad, and can't live with it, can't live without it. But I think the best part about technology is really thinking through what are your boundaries that you're going to set around technology, and what does that look like to you? How are you going to make sure that you are living an intentional life and you're not living by default, which a lot of us do. We don't realize we've built this life that we don't really love, or we spend all of our time on Netflix, and that's totally out of alignment with your core values. And how do you build those boundaries? So when you're at a restaurant with your friends, intentionally leaving your phone in your purse, leaving it in your pocket, don't put it on the table. Studies have even shown that just putting the phone on the table increases like anxiety about the phone and increases likelihood that you're going to pick it up. So
Makes sense.
it makes total sense. It's out of sight, out of mind, truly, in this case. So making sure that you're not bringing your phone out in social situations, making sure that you're really thinking through what you want your relationship to your phone to look like. Do you want to set some boundaries on your phone? Do you want to maybe turn your phone to a grayscale? Because they have shown that if you turn your phone to a grayscale, you will scroll less because it is less like a dopamine appealing in your brain. You have to remember that these phones are designed to sell us things nonstop. And so they will try and find every dopamine trigger they can and just like load us up so that we are getting all of that without any of the benefits of true connection. And I think thinking through how you want to have your relationship with your phone is really very, very important. But I think the other thing is thinking through the connections and looking at the communities. Gen Z is drinking a lot less than previous generations, and they're trying to build a different, more intentional focus. I think that's something we need to pay attention to. I think we need to kind of understand if people are drinking less, what do they want to do? What do they really want? And a lot of people are looking for more meaningful bonds where they can collectively heal social well-being and kind of meet new people. So great. How do we build that? How do we turn that into something that we can, a place that people can come and join us and that we can really see change? Because I think a lot of us are lonely. A lot of us won't talk about it. And the hope that we have now is that people are starting to have these conversations. So we can start to solve some of these problems and make new friends as adults and get people out there.
I agree. And that makes what your business does particularly intriguing. So let's delve into your business and what it does.
Sure, I would love to. I've opened Presence&Co. It is a well-being focused social club north of Boston, and it's in Reading, Mass. We are a social space where we have events and activities for adults to make friends. And it's been an interesting journey. It's something that I kind of built out of personal experience of wanting to make more friends as adults, personal experience of wanting to be on my phone less and kind of be in places where people weren't so distracted and numb. A lot of us are like numbing with these phones. So I've built the social space. It is a social club for people to come for events and activities. I have a little bit of co-working going on for wellness practitioners who want to meet clients here as well. And it's really just a space to be and to learn new things. And, there's a lot of things that health class hasn't taught us. And so in many ways, we're going to cover those topics in different workshops and events. And when you first walk through the door at Presence&Co, the first thing you see is a phone jail. And phone jail is a set of phone lockers that you walk in and you put your phone in. And if you're wearing an Apple Watch, include that in it. And you put them both in. And you take your key, has a little bracelet on it, put it on your wrist, and go into the room. So we're really trying to be a digital detox space and really be a space where people can connect and they can enjoy and they can learn and they can grow together. So that is Presence and Co.
Digital detox. I love it. So, how could they reach out to you?
Yes. You can reach me or find out about Presence and Co. at presenceandco.net. You can also look us up on Facebook. We are Presence ampersand Co. And on Instagram, we are Presence underscore and underscore Co. So,
I don't live in the Boston area, but that sounds so inviting and so very intriguing. And you should be having people all around that area who just can't wait to get in the doors because, in addition to it impacting your emotional well being, the potential to impact diseases and longevity, that's very significant. We take it for granted far too much, and we really do need to turn the tide because those are wasted years for nothing. If you look at maybe dying early from disease A, B, C, when it's all said and done, was it really worth it? Of course not.
yep.
So go ahead.
I love that. I think you're right. We will never look back and be like, oh, I wish I spent more time scrolling on Instagram.
I missed that post.
Ah,
So thank you so very much for being on the show, and you have a blessed day.
yes. Thank you so much for having me.
Bye bye.